Hello and welcome to yet another video on AI Pulse, presented by your mentor Vivek. Two numbers have been going around about AI and electricity. One says data centers are under 10% of demand growth. The other says data centers are about 50% of demand growth. People are using them to argue opposite positions. Both numbers come from the International Energy Agency. Both are correct. And they are not in conflict because they are measuring two different things. And almost nobody says which one they are holding. Let me untangle it because the actual story underneath is more interesting than either headline. Before the growth rates, the level, because you cannot read a growth rate without knowing what it is growing from. In 2024, data centers worldwide consumed roughly 415 terawatt hours. That is about 1.5% of all electricity consumed on the planet. Every data center, not just AI, all of them, 1.5%. By 2030, the projection is around 945 terawatt hours, just under 3% of global electricity. So it roughly doubles. And inside that total, the accelerated servers, the AI hardware specifically, are projected to grow around 30% a year in the base case. So the AI share is the fast moving part of a total that is still small. Now, the two numbers that look like they are fighting. Globally, data center demand growth accounts for less than 10% of the total growth in world electricity demand through 2030. Because world electricity demand is rising for a lot of reasons: industry, air conditioning, electric transport, people getting connected. Data centers are a minority slice of that increase. That is the number people use to say the panic is overdone. In the United States, the picture is completely different. There, data centers are expected to make up roughly half of all electricity demand growth out to 2030, inside a forecast addition of about 420 terawatt hours between 2025 and 2030. That is the number people use to say the grid is in trouble. Same agency, same period, different country, both true. And once you line those up, the real story falls out. And the IEA states it plainly. Data center demand growth is a small share of global growth, but it is geographically concentrated. And that concentration creates localized grid integration challenges. That is the IEA's own language, which means this is not really a question about whether the world can generate enough electricity. It is a question about whether one particular county can. Think about what a gigawatt scale campus actually does. It does not spread its demand politely across a continent. It lands on one substation, in one interconnection queue, in one utilities planning area, among one set of local ratepayers. The global average is genuinely reassuring and completely irrelevant to the people living next to it. Here is the figure that made it concrete for me. In the United States, data center electricity works out to roughly 540 kilowatt hours per person in 2024 and is projected to exceed 1200 by 2030. The IEA compares that to around 10% of what an American household uses in a year per person. That is not an abstraction anymore. So, what do you take away? Apart from some terawatt hours. Whenever somebody hands you a percentage about AI, ask three questions. Percentage of what? Of total consumption or of the growth in consumption? Those are wildly different numbers. Where? Globally or in one country? And by when? Most of the arguments about these figures simply dissolve the moment all three are stated out loud. Nobody was lying. They were quoting different denominators. And a caution I want to be clear about: the 2030 figures are projections, not measurements. They rest on assumptions about hardware efficiency, how much gets built, and what policy does. The IEA publishes them as cases, not prophecies. The 2024 numbers are the solid ground here. The rest is a well informed model, and models move. So here is the verdict. Globally, AI is a small slice of a big rise in electricity demand. Locally, it can be most of the rise. Both of those sentences are true at the same time, and only the second one shows up on somebody's electricity bill. When you next see one of these numbers, ask which one you're holding. If you found this useful, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for patient listening, and see you in the next video. Until then, peace out.